Hello, welcome to another macro video. We've got some new features for FRedit that I'm going to show you today, but let's just do a little revision first in case there are newcomers to FRedit watching. So we've got to get you started, we've got some training material available from my website, which I'll show you in a second, called FRedit from Square One. And then once you get going, you may well need the FRedit manual, because as you go to more advanced features you'll need the background that the manual gives you. And we've also got videos and covering a whole range of levels of use of FRedit, but they were recorded a while ago, so they don't know about the idea that you put FRedit at the top of the list, which is a relatively new feature. It just makes it easier for FRedit to know which is your list and which is your text that you're working on. So let's have a look at the website. So in the How Can I Get Started tab, that's where you find the material for FRedit from Square One. Here we go. And it's also available in Spanish should you need it. The other material is in Resources. There's the Resources tab. Click on that. So there's the FRedit download with the manual in it, amongst other things. And here's a link to the videos. Okay, so that's that. Right, so once you get started, it may well be that you have some problems with your list, and there are ways you can get help with that. There is a macro called FRedit List Checker, which occasionally is useful. So you open your FRedit list, run the checker, and it will try and give you some clues as to what you might have done wrong in your list. Now today what I'm introducing you to is a new test mode for FRedit. It provides two fault finding tools and it offers two reports. So what does it do? In the test mode, it will step through the list item by item rather than shooting straight through from beginning to end. But once you get started and you go through a few items, then you could decide to just run on to the end once you're happy, or you could quit. You could decide that it needs we need to change the FRedit list in some way, give up. If you've only done a few of the find and replaces, then you can use Command Z or Control Z to undo those first few changes and get back to the initial version of the file. But of course you have already saved it, have you not? I'm sure you have. Okay, so the next feature, fault finding feature it gives you, is to allow you to step through the FRedit list section by section. So you can do split it up into sections, try the first section, see what that does, go to the next section and the next section. There are reports. So the first one shows you whether any of the items on your list were not actually used. That could be a useful feature, particularly with wildcard items. You think that your wildcard should change XYZ, but actually when you run in test mode and you look at the report, it might show you that one of your wildcards didn't actually change anything. In other words, maybe the wildcard is wrong. Okay, there could be items in your FRedit list that are not used because it just so happens that those words or phrases are not in this particular document that you're working on. But that's obviously information that you can look at and decide for yourself. So we've got a couple of reports, and the first one is the second report. It tells you which items, I've called them silent items, were used. In other words, if you've put a strike through on the item in the list, it will not be tracked. So things like two spaces into one, you may well not want tracking. However, some clients like to know that what silent items you have actually used, such as double two spaces or the space hyphen space, whatever. And the idea, this is a request from an editor because they wanted to be able to put on their style sheet just a list of which items were used and done silently and not tracked. Okay, let's try to demonstrate some of these things. So we need a document to play with and a FRedit list. Okay, so you click in the document and run the FRedit as normal. However, if you want to go into test mode, you have to put the word test at the beginning of the FRedit list. So I've got some items in here which have got strike through because we're saying, well, I happen not to want those tracked, but the other ones will be tracked. So let's try it and see what we do. So if we run FRedit, what it does then in test mode is to do the first item and then say, do you want to carry on? So if you can type naught and carry on, it'll do the second one, but you can do the naught is the same as pressing the enter key or clicking OK. So just step through them, fine, and then you can run to the end with number 1, run to the end, goes right the way through, and then it comes up with 2 reports. The first one is the items that are unused. So if the item is 1, so the word Peter didn't occur in my document, so that wasn't used, neither the word rubbish. Interestingly, I wondered why there to here hadn't been used, but actually that's because earlier I changed her to his, and of course there contains her, so that ended up as thise, Thise. Anyway, so yeah, that's the first report, and the second report tells you which untracked find and replaces were actually used. So the double spacing thing was you can see it had a strike through, so it was untracked but it was used, and Alice was untracked but it was used. Peter was untracked but that didn't get used anyway. So that was the report that this editor wanted to see. Okay, so let's undo that and show you the other feature. Now if we just go out of test mode for a second, you may well have come across the hash symbol, and what that does in normal mode, it will run through all those items, and then when it sees the hash symbol, FRedit will stop altogether. Okay, now if we're running in test mode, that gives us another feature, because we could put a hash symbol there and we could put a hash symbol there. So we've now got 3 sections, and we can go through them one at a time and decide what to do as a result. Okay, so let's try that out. So we run FRedit, and that's done one item, and then you can do another item, but then you can if you do one, it will run through to either to the end, or in this case, because we've got hashes, it will run to the next hash. So if I do that, it will go as far as the end of the green ones and then stop, and if you do a number 1 again, goes through the turquoise ones and then runs to the end if you press it again. Okay, and then it produces its report. So that's it. Those are the new features. Yeah, I hope they're useful. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Bye for now.